Lynn is a multi-talented and prolific artist who's been with the project since its inception. And tonight she's doing a piece that she wrote called What Will I Grieve? So welcome, Lynn.
When I was growing up, they built a power plant and promised energy for the Long Island suburbs popping up around us. The only way to evacuate, however, if something went wrong, was through the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Over 1 million people lived on Long Island, and I used to sit up and imagine what would happen, picturing mobs of people stuffing into the tunnel like a tube of ants with a sugar pile at the end, and the sugar pile was survival. Evacuations split up families, sometimes for good. People lose jobs, homes, communities, opportunities. We look at fatalities and we look at numbers and consequences, but we also know that evacuations have long-term harmful effects. And some say that the stress and the depression kills more people than the disaster. But you can't prove things like that. What does trauma do? Fear, loss, grief? We don't connect those when we talk about an incident and the casualties any more than we look at what happens to people who survive a war. How would you feel if you lived in a city where something went wrong? If you woke up to sirens, to orders to grab your family and your pets and your stuff and leave? Would you trust what you were told? Would you trust what you were told about where to go, what's safe? Would you go immediately? Would you wait? Would you listen? What would you grab if you had minutes to decide? Would you think clearly if you knew that you would take your house key and lock your door, maybe for the last time? Would you look back? Would you jump to action? Would you run? Or would you freeze? This is a poem called Parakeets and Baby Teeth, about what would you grieve? What would I grieve if I had to leave suddenly, waking up to a panic, an alert, an alarm, the sounds of sirens and orders, a directive effective immediately, an evacuation and urgency? Would I run? Would I freeze? If I woke to the world that I knew becoming steps and instructions around me, would I trust them? Would I stall? Would I drop everything and go? What would I grieve if I had to leave suddenly? Would I start grabbing with bags? Would my priorities skew? Would I worry about the fruit on the table going bad? What would I choose in the confusion, and what would I leave? What would I grieve if I had to leave suddenly? When would my gratitude, my safety, my worry about the others, the tending, the calls, the crisis subsiding in time, when the immediate fear ceased to a new distant quiet? When would the relief become tempered by losses? When would I grieve? When the fitting of mismatched pieces left me broken but moving on? When would I grieve? What would I grieve? What would I keep from the collapsing? What seemed intact, concrete, becoming pieces from my pockets, my certainty, my plans, my security, my geography? What if it was revealed as it is really? Right in front of me, fluid and fleeting, as temporary as life is temporary? Would that reality hit me? Would I grieve? Would I head off with my keys to an obsolete lock, protecting nothing really, just toxic contents, driving off to some new scenery? Would I grieve that piece of sky that I once thought belonged to me? What would I grieve if I had to drive off and just leave suddenly? The community around me, the people scattered to the map like dropped beads, landing in other towns randomly, the neighborhood faces, the garbage cans on trash day, geraniums on the porch next door, the lady walking her dog before work, nameless, stopping at every tree, needing him to hurry, feeling guilty. My sympathy, her coaxing voice, familiar to me, the sounds of cars pausing at the stop sign, kids walking with backpacks, mothers with strollers, patched asphalt squares where the gas company once dug up the street, utilities and the urban ugly, the context that I never knew I was so attached to. Would all of this hit me suddenly? What would I grieve if I had to leave suddenly? The soda cans I collected at the bus stop half empty? Would I feel like the passenger paused, interrupted mid-sip, pulled away in my seat, leaving unfinished business? What would I grieve? Conversations, the volume of individual histories, would I remember which kid went to which school with this kid, who used to work at the factory, who used to go to school in the old elementary, whose kids moved out to the township, which neighbor was always calling the police? The mail in the box, the books due back by Tuesday at the library, would I remember with every relic of routine, with every habit, what used to be? What would I grieve? Would I grieve slowly like a drip, or would it all just hit me? Would I wake up in new places where need and necessity took me, expecting footsteps and pets? Would I open my eyes in my bed? What would I expect? To see the room that I knew? Would I forget again and again, waking up to my new empty? Would I collect the sounds in my head in a blend unique to my city, an arrangement, a song, a movie score becoming my before that I listen to in my after, and maybe again with the credits? Would my memories start to line up this way? Old life, new life, a date in between. How many things would stay with me? What would I keep? What would I build? What would I lose? Would I diminish in the distance? Would everyone scatter, collecting their own fragments? Would they forget me? What would be left if the rug was pulled out from under me? What would I grieve if I had to leave suddenly? Bulbs in the yard would poke out in the spring without me, the roses escaping their tight, pruned confines, now neglected and free, to rebel, reach out cautiously, start climbing, growing wiry, their blooms their own, the vines would unravel, find their way across brick faces, taking over the masonry just like we planned, without me. The garden would grow wild, without city fines, with the beautiful anarchy we wanted, without me. The crows I feed, yes, a regrettable dependency, would complain to the trees, turning their heads toward the door in angry futility. Where the hell is she? Their tinsel gifts in a pile, without me. The hedges growing taller would invite new shadows, the hours of shade, the frost lasting longer, without me. What would I grieve if I had to leave suddenly? What would I grab in the vetting, the triage of possessions, the rescue of which, having gone badly, having created a trunk full of what? Trunk full of what? Photos, old recipes, dried flowers from funerals and graduations, in Jim Morrison's grave, a guitar in a box with art pieces, a shot glass from New Orleans, a dog leash, chapstick, trophies with my kid's name spelled wrong, goldfish in a jug, my mother's bandana, her ticket stubs from dead shows, her buttons from the 60s, informational prescription printouts from the pharmacy we didn't read, still stapled to a receipt, maybe with refill numbers, maybe not, I don't know, a cigar box with bangles and postcards I sent from Germany, an urn, an apron, Mother's Day gifts made from popsicle sticks, parakeets and baby teeth. What would we take? What would we leave? What would we grieve if we left our lives suddenly? Thank you.